The Struggles of Mental Health Stigma by Courtney Irvin. Mental health stigma. The definition of mental health stigma is that people with mental illnesses are looked at and treated differently. This is a problem because of the effects it can cause on the people suffering from it. A study conducted in Canada found that three items most frequently selected by two-thirds of respondents or more were that expectations of the average person would be afraid of someone with a serious mental illness. Experiences with stigma cause them to think less about themselves and they would avoid situations that may be stigmatizing. Lizowski. This chart shows stigmatism of mental illness in newspaper articles. 50% in the United States mention violence and 34% mention criminals. The articles are painting a bad light on mental illness. They are picking the criminal incidents more often than not. Dingfelder. Okay, on these, as you can tell, in the United States, the percentages are quite a bit more for violence and criminals. And these are newspaper articles mentioning mental illness. So, like in Iceland, you only have 32%, in Germany, 18% compared to the United States, 50. On the that's on violence. On criminals, you have 14% and 18% compared to 34. So there is quite a big jump in both of those. So in the United States, they are definitely picking the violence and criminals articles more often than in other places in the world, showing at least half of the time that people with mental illness are violent, which just further pushes the stigmatism. Mental health stigma continue. The effects of this stigma can affect people suffering from mental illness in their everyday lives. Stigma can also be self-induced. This can cause self-doubt and self-esteem issues that can ultimately be as dangerous, if not more, than outside stigma. The mental illness sufferers do not have to try to solve this on their own. They can seek out support from family and friends or see a mental health professional to work out their self-inflicted stigma. Corrigan 875 through 84. Solution to help reduce or eliminate mental health stigma. Educating the general public is the best way to solve mental health stigma, and the best way to educate the general public will be educating our youth. Programs can be started in schools, like the sex education programs, but these will not be optional. They could also do meetings with the parents. This will help them understand the signs and symptoms of different mental illnesses. They would have the information on the level that a non medically educated person could understand. This would allow students suffering from mental illness to recognize the problem and seek treatment. This would also allow parents to recognize that their children or themselves were suffering from an untreated mental illness. Ingredients to make the solution work. The school system will need to be on board because without them, it cannot proceed. Volunteers to organize and run the program. Money to fund the program. If the school system does not have this in their budget, it will come from donations and fundraising. This program should reduce or eliminate stigma in our younger and future generations. Possible concerns of the solution. The biggest concern would be getting the schools on board because that is the very first step in the process. Also, finding volunteers to organize and run the program. Another concern is funding the program because most schools would not have it in their budget and donations or fundraisers may not be enough. These concerns can all be worked through. They may take time, but eventually they can find a way through them. The most common solution for this problem is inaction or just plain ignoring the problem itself. This solution is not working because it is not addressing the problem and it is more of a cause of stigma than a solution. The solution of having a program in school systems will add awareness to mental health and help people recognize their symptoms. It will also help those people who recognize their illness know that it is time to seek out treatment. And that is the end of my presentation. Here is my works cited page. You have Corrigan, Dingfelder, which is the chart, and then, of course, Lazowski. There were the three sources that I used in my presentation of mental health stigma.